No phone calls, no messages. Nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore. A professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you can listen to the show streaming, of course, the station streaming 24/7 on the TuneIn app. So just simply punch it, WCRN. And do me a favor, hit the like button so that we know that you're there. And we're also live streaming on my social media platforms. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube page under the Joe Mangiacotti Show channel, LinkedIn, and even Twitch TV at Joe M Show. So several ways to check out the show. You can join the conversation over the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And of course, last Monday being the federal holiday, first time we recognized Juneteenth was last Monday, and the station was in kind of the, federal holiday mode. So our normal joining by Dr. Larry Fedawar has been moved to this week. So let me invite into the conversation Dr. Larry Fedawar. Hey, doctor. How are you, sir?
I'm just fine.
Good to
Got a little rain here, but we needed it.
Absolutely. How are the horses?
I'm looking at them right now. They're all bunched right here in this part of the pasture, and they enjoy getting rained on because it keeps them clean.
And probably a little cool. Well, I don't know about that. Does it make it
cooled
cool
off? Yeah,
okay.
that's
Sounds
true.
Good. All right, folks, Dr. Larry can be found at Dr. Larry Online, and you can check out his articles. And we're going to get to one of the topics that you dealt with in your latest postings, Doctor, in a minute. But you're still doing the resistance hour with Donaldson?
No, we decided that we're going to wait. We're coming up with a new network here shortly, and that will have a lot more on it than we've had in the past. But right now, we're not. I'm doing guest work and writing columns, and that's keeping me busy.
Excellent. If you want to see Dr. Larry's latest articles, again, just simply Dr. Larry Online. All right. Obviously, Doctor, I want to get your take. We had a significant activity with SCOTUS. In a short amount of time, they've released some very controversial decisions. As a matter of fact, even today, they released their decision regarding the prayer of the coach.
Yeah.
Remember now.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I look at these, Dr. Larry, I think, shouldn't common sense come here? Because just for our listeners, if you're not familiar with this, so the coach, after the game was over, he would himself privately take a moment, take a knee, and do a prayer, a silent prayer for himself. And over time, some of the players said, hey, can I join you? And players would join him. And even the other team started to. So he never asked anybody to pray with him. He never made it mandatory. People just picked up on this and decided to do it after the game was over on their own time. And then an atheist player, two, I guess there were, who went to him and said, that's uncomfortable. We're atheists. And he said, well, of course you don't have to pray. I never asked anybody to. And he actually respected their standing up for their beliefs and standing up and saying something to the point that he saw leadership in them, and he made them the co-captains. So at no time was he coercing anyone. Well, what has it been, 3 years? And it's made its way up to the Supreme Court. And the ruling today was simply, you can't do that. You have both the freedom of speech and the freedom to practice religion coming into play here. Any take on that, Doctor, on today's decision?
Well, it followed the Constitution, and I think that's the name of the game in the last in this generally in this court, which I think is about time.
Right. I think we have a majority of justices who are constitutionalists and are going to the Constitution as the blueprint for the country and seeing what does the Constitution say. And I think about that, and of course, you wonder, well, aren't all justices supposed to be this ilk? But we do know we have some justices who, and self-proclaimed activist judges. Is there any place for an activist judge on a bench? Any bench?
Well, I guess human nature being what it is, we're going to have people with different opinions. I think that the key to your question is active, and I don't think that justices or judges of any kind should be active advocates of a particular position that is related to anything that ever might come up in their court. And of course, that takes in a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't see why they couldn't be a fan of the Red Sox, for example. Although you might have a court case sometime that has to do with the baseball team, but in that case, I think you just have to set it aside.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in absolutes.
Okay. Well, we had the school choice issue up in Maine. It came from a Maine case. It had to do with taking the vouchers and allowing parents to send their children to a charter school of some type if there wasn't one geographically available to them. And this included faith-based schools. And the state said, no, you can't do that because you can't take government money and place it into a school that, because of their religion, there are certain things that they can practice that aren't allowed in public schools. And the court said, no, the existence or the ability to practice and worship existed long before the government did. The government did bestow that ability onto you. You were born with it. And we can't interfere with your right to practice. And if everybody is getting a voucher, it's whatever school you want to go, send them to, you can do that. A lot of people consider that a violation of the separation in church and state. Do you have a take on that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it is a guaranteed right in the Constitution. So it's not like they're making it up or pulling it out of the air. It is the right to or the prohibition of the government to establish any religion is part of the Constitution. So therefore, they cannot have any position that is going to favor one religion over another, or no religion over religion. I mean, the whole subject is kind of out of the realm of regulation. But I think the issue or at least the response of in the opinion was basically, what you're doing is you're talking about schools whose function is to teach, and it's not. I mean, you're not talking about what they're teaching. You're talking about their right to teach, and that is guaranteed by freedom of speech. So you really have two constitutional issues, both of which have to be served and observed by courts and state governments. I think, by the way, that may turn out to be the most important decision of this whole session.
Really?
Because if school choice now becomes legally acceptable throughout the United States, I think it's growing extremely rapidly already. And now with this really invitation on the part of the Supreme Court to just take any group that wants to sponsor its own school can do it with state money. That's always been the problem with choice, with school choice. How do you finance it? Well, they're saying you got to finance it in the same way that that the Maine law did, and that is that you have to give the money. You got to take the school money and you got to divide it according to the people that are actually doing the schools, and the public schools do not have they do not have first choice. So I think this is critical, and this is something that people like me who have been trying to been advocating school choice as the only way that we are going to reform public schools or teaching in this United States this is a major step forward, and I believe it is. I think public schools are beyond any kind of redemption because they are so entrenched in the establishment, starting with the schools of education in the universities, and then all of the money that is associated with the teacher unions. This is the only chance that we have of getting a major reform of the educational system of our children. And we've had more than 1 million kids that have been taken out of public schools just in the last year and put into different schools and homeschooling. So I think it's critical. It's critical importance.
Well, I also, it occurred to me during the pandemic, and we had this, all the virtual learning, remote learning going on, and parents, seeing behind the
30
curtain,
seconds.
right, and what was being taught. I thought, I bet you there's going to be communities, because not every parent or, one of the parents could stay home and do the teaching. And there'd be communities who would pull together and say, we're just going to, do homeschooling as a group. Now, if they actually can get the state funds,
10 seconds.
they could really absolutely do their own schooling. But we have to take a break here, Doctor. It's the first break here on the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. So let us do that. Remember, lines are open and available at 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Dr. Larry Fedewa is our guest today. Joe Mangiacotti, stick with us.
Don't put mercury in the trash. Don't put mercury in the trash. Fluorescent lamps. Thermometers. Thermostats. These could all contain mercury.
All right, we can leave that for 1 second. Okay. So I'm going to move into, we'll go into the other two choices, and we'll end the show up with the issue of that article, Peter Vincent Prize, sea-based, sea and land-based tactical nukes. I think that's incredible. Hit that.
I told you it scared the heck out of you.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, that Audacity used to be, I know that used to be radio.com. They changed the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let me.
It's a big outfit.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk to you more about it when we're off the show, but let me bring back so we can hear the station.
If you're retired or a stay-at-home mom looking to make a few extra dollars, this opportunity is perfect for you. Work part-time, set your own schedule. It's fun. We provide the training you need to succeed. The only thing better than listening to Howie Carr is selling Howie Carr. If you're outgoing, not afraid to learn new things, and would like to earn some extra money, call me at 508-870-5803, extension 222. Start making money selling radio.
WCRN is an equal opportunity
30.
employer. Metro West real estate market. Have you a little crazy? Call 508-733-6005 for a private consultation with award-honored realtors Gary Kelly and Sue Gordon of La Macchia Realty. They'll help you make the right move. 508-733-6005 or movewithgary.com.
Didn't you get my text?
Sorry, I was driving.
Okay, here we go.
Text and drive.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you Joe.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here at AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation at any time over the remaining of the show at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Don't forget our text line at 617-297-8388, or you can email textjoeintheradio@gmail.com. That appears on the same screen in real time. Our guest is Dr. Larry Fedor, who joins us once a week, and you can read his articles at Dr. Larry Online, and I'm sure you'll hear him back up on the air shortly as well. So, Doctor, we've had some really historical Supreme Court rulings hit us. They've held off a couple more, but even one, as we were talking about, with the praying on your own time and so forth. And I never understood why they pushed them so hard. That's just an example of the woke, arrogant left deciding that it's not enough just to let people do their thing and ignore them. You have to behave the way they want you to behave. And we see this in the cancel culture that's going on there. And I think there's some pushback, right? We're seeing Elon Musk telling people, get back in the office for 40 hours. If the guys and girls on the factory floor can bust their tushy doing, putting these cars together, you can spend 40 hours in your very comfortable climate-controlled office. We've seen financial companies do this. We've seen Netflix, right? Send out that email that leaked. Hey, if you don't like the programming that we have on our platform, maybe you shouldn't work here. Maybe you should find someone else.
Don't watch it.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see that, right? Because I just don't agree with the cancel culture. I've always said, if you don't look at this thing with the koozies at the Kroger stores and stuff. Give me liberty or give me death. I mean, historical quote, but because it's also has the Second Amendment in it, some Karen on Twitter says something, and I can't believe that these captains of industry, these CEOs of these major companies, can be pushed around by some jamoke on Twitter as if that means something. What are they so afraid of? And I'm so happy when I see them push back. And my point to the Karens of the world there is, you don't like it, don't buy it. And if you really want to make a statement, stop shopping at the store. But who are you to decide what people want to buy, what they like, right? If you don't like the program, change the channel. Said it to many people who criticize what they hear here in this show. I'm not forcing you to listen to the show. So why are these captains of industry such wimps about this?
Bunch of Budinskis.
Well, those are the Karens, but I can't understand how. I mean, they get to this position, and it's not easy to become the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, or a multi-million or even $1 billion corporation, and somehow somebody on Twitter can control them. I can't understand how people think that what's on Twitter is connected to reality in the real world. Especially when you find out, these people are doing things. They have nothing else going on in their lives except they're trolling on internet, and they think that they are celebrities of some type, and I think they get off on some of the power that they yield.
Well, there's also the class issue, and that is we do have definite classes, social groups, if you will, in this country, and the CEOs and the top officers, the so-called working rich, generally are in the same social groups as a lot of the liberals that are in entertainment and communications. So they might have a predisposition toward some woke based objection to something, like a slogan, for instance, and they do think that that represents the world. It does represent their world in some cases. So you know, a lot of people, they kind of forget the mud on their shoes when they get to be senior vice president. Oh.
Got it. Well, let me get back to some of the SCOTUS decisions because we had the New York case settled, and I got to tell you, when this showed it to go, not just me, I mean, the people with real voices and activists in the Second Amendment fight kind of warned them and saying, you know, be careful about pushing this because you might not like the outcome. And I always say this to any of these organizations or even the individuals who are fighting cases and they're going to move it through the appellate court and get up, you know, and hopefully get to the Supreme Court. Because if the court does their job, they're going to follow the Constitution. And if you study it a little bit and think about it, you probably have a good idea how the court should find it. And sure enough, that New York case gets to the Supreme Court and they say, wait a minute, there's no second step in the Second Amendment. We don't have a second step in any of the other amendments. We just simply, it is what it is. You know, the Second Amendment is always treated different than the others, even though they're all equally the same. And in the New York case, Manhattan wanted to say, hey, yeah, you want a permit, but you have to prove to us why you need it. And it doesn't say anywhere in the Constitution about a second hurdle or step two in this process. It just simply says you have the right to keep and bear arms. Now, they've agreed that there are limits that can be put on if you're a felon or you have a restraining order or violence in your background. Yeah, there's a process in there to deny you to be able to have a permit to carry a concealed weapon. And they simply said that's all you have to do. Now, the opponents of this is saying, well, we're a dense population. Well, there are many dense population cities in the country. And here, you know, and what's going to happen, in my opinion, what's going to happen is anything that happens now in New York, they're going to blame on this ruling. Even though all along there has been mass shootings and many, many crimes committed with firearms, but they're all firearms that are illegally obtained. They're not registered. They're not being used by the rightful owner who's licensed to carry and so forth. They're criminals using guns. And before you start to go after those law-abiding citizens, Doctor, shouldn't you be worried about getting the illegal activity under control? Because the problem isn't with guys and ladies who take the test, go through the process of getting the application, the background check, and then many of them either join a gun club so that they can keep proficient, or they join, you know, GOAL or Gun Owners Action League or even NRA, and they want to make those organizations NRA that they're literally trying to make a terrorist organization. And they used to be in the schools, for Christ's sakes, right? We used to have shooting in the schools at one point. And I think the answer is to take off a lot of the restrictions for legal gun owners, where they can carry and how they can get the permit. And I think that would solve a lot of crimes. You go to parts of this country where, you know, guns are prevalent, some places in the South, and not in the big cities, but out in those rural areas. People leave their doors unlocked because they know there's a pretty good chance if they're somewhere they're not supposed to be, they'll probably get shot.
Well, it's true, but and it's incontrovertible. I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
You have the right to own and bear arms. Period. I mean, there's no contingencies. There's no reservations, and it's about time somebody started looking at this whole problem. You know, the idea of gun control as the solution to crime and to particularly murder and mass shootings and all sorts of various criminal acts. That idea is nonsense. The issue is not whether the guns are available or not. The issue is who's using the guns.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And the fact is that the criminal element always has access to guns And if the people, the regular citizens, don't have access, then the only people with guns are going to be the bad guys, and that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah.
And so I hope now that they start taking into account the issue of that this is really law enforcement, and it's really a much more conventional solution to the problem of law and order than the woke people would have it. And if you want true proof of that, just look at California, San Francisco, and now the St. Louis. Los Angeles district attorneys are being recalled because they didn't enforce law. I mean, this whole thing is a sham. It's a way for people to blame somebody else instead of trying to take the logical and traditional and effective way of controlling crime and misdemeanors.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that they're going to try, and this is the response, right? Well, we're going to get Hochul, the new governor there, that seems to be kind of feckless, is coming out. Well, we're going to get legislation. We're going to do this, and I'm thinking, didn't it just kind of got decided? What legislation are you going to do that the court isn't going to uphold their own decision again? So you say, why don't you really put all that energy and effort
1 minute
again into the criminals, into rounding up those illegal weapons? And here's another thing, Doc. Don't plea bargain the gun charges away. This is a huge problem. Here in Massachusetts, we have something called the Fox-Bartlett law that says it's a mandatory year in prison or year in jail if you are carrying a gun and you're not legally entitled to do so. And that gets knocked down, plea bargained out, and not really enforced.
30 seconds.
Now, some have gone to jail under it as part of a bigger case. But I'm telling you, if we had really tough sentences for these people who are gang members and criminals, they know that they're going away for 3 to 5 years instantly in and above, on top of anything
10
else.
seconds.
They might think twice about it and just round those guns up and stop cutting the police department's ability, like the gang unit they got rid of, who knew where their guns were, and they knew who the bad guys were. But we're going to take our second break here at the bottom of the hour. We're going to do that, come back for the second half of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Dr. Larry Fedorov is our guest. Stick with us. 508-871-7000, folks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today.
Joe, you're feeding back the
772-1776.
I had that up a little bit so the doctor
Retirement
could hear it.
is
I
within
shut it
reach.
down. Or could hear a call, but we don't have a call.
Yeah, I was getting
Get ready for
I was getting feedback from the beach
showers
house.
containing some embedded downpours and embedded thunderstorms as well. So the big thing is going to be some locally heavy rain. At the same time,
because if we got right now, if I had a call doctor
to
get the
you
hear the caller,
you'll find
I'd have to
conditions
pot
definitely
up
improve this
the
evening,
Lucy
and we're on track
so
for
you could hear
lots
it.
of sun.
But that would
Tuesday
then
and
Well, in the future,
send
you
it
should
back
call
to-
here.
You can hear Boston 25 live for the morning.
Yeah, that's also-
You should have callers call here.
Dr.
Yeah,
Satya
well, the guest,
Mitra
but then-
has journeyed
but they're
from
on
a
the
childhood
same
of
line.
poverty and homelessness to a successful
And then
career
it's
as a
tough when you have a
financial
caller
advisor,
on.
motivational speaker,
I know
and
Chris is
community
going to
leader.
put
Now
a
inspired by his
dedicated
guru, who
guest
uses
line
his
in there.
experiences
Yeah, I can
to
adjust
positively
for
affect
that
lives
until we
of
get the new one.
people.
But
Strive to house
in the
blindness, poverty,
future going
homelessness,
forward,
Getting any calls?
you should always have a
I
guest
don't think,
call
no,
here.
we haven't had any calls yet, Ted, right?
If you wish to contribute or
No
know
calls yet.
deserving persons or initiatives that
I'll roll
need
the
our
numbers
assistance,
more.
please contact us at 508-641-8441.
Of course, we're also
Hi, it's
30
Jamie,
seconds.
Progressive's Employee of the Month,
Yeah.
2 months in a row.
Go back.
Leave a message at the... Hey, Jamie, it's me, Jamie. Do not forget to buy lentils, or the lentil soup you're making for dinner will be sorely lacking. By the way, Mrs. Calloway says thanks for helping her bundle home and auto. She appreciates the extra savings, even though you kept using the word apropos incorrectly. But the main thing is do not forget to buy, what was it? Something apropos the lentil soup. Sorry, I'll call you back.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Talk about real estate, mortgages, and the economy on the Drew Mortgage Show. Weekdays at noon on Full Service Radio.
Okay, here we go.
WCRN.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. are the show. You want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks. So welcome back to the Joe Mangiacotti Show here in the Monday edition. Second half of the show, lines are open and available at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. If you'd like to join myself and Dr. Larry Fedawar, have a question for the doctor, a good time to jump in. You can also text us at 617-297-8388 or email us at textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. It appears on the same screen in real time. We've been covering some of the Supreme Court decisions, and I want to move, obviously, to the one that has caused seemingly the most controversy, and it actually had a pressure relief valve 5-6 weeks before the decision was let out because of that leaked memo, which I'd still like to see the leaker found and prosecuted. But this decision is being, I think, often misrepresented in the media, Dr. Larry, because they're saying they overturned Roe versus Wade. They're acting as though abortion is illegal, and it has simply said, in what many argued, including Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that this is going to be chipped away at, and she predicted this day coming. And in the 10th Amendment clearly says anything not specifically in the Constitution shall, not may, or could be, but shall be handled by the states. And the court just simply said, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So by state, we'll have the laws governing it. So it's up to your state. So either lobby or run for office or support the candidates you want in your state. The federal government is just saying it's not our purview to decide that. Why is this a difficult thing for people to understand?
Well, because their understanding of the Roe v. Wade was all wrong to start with. I mean, they saw it as a constitutional right, establishing a constitutional right to decide whether to have an abortion or not. And in fact, they didn't say that. Really, it said it's a fundamental right. In other words, it came from God, and they, of course, had no basis for that either. So that's why Ruth Ginsburg was, and a lot of other commentators have always said it's a poorly stated, poorly documented opinion, and so, but it got into the popular culture in a very different mode, and I think also it became kind of symbolic for a lot of other factors in the feminist movement, particularly how they were treated in the workplace and equality with men, and in terms of not only wages but also other rules of vacation and off time and so on. So I mean, there was a lot of emotion around it that really was not part of the legal discussion at all.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought that in 1973 that they kind of found the ruling to fit the times, like, again, activist judges. But did they fall to pressure in 1973? Do you think that was what was going on?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so, sure. Of course,
it found.
You had a court at that time too that was very tied into what we now call the woke community, but it was there were the extremists, and it was really the feminist movement that was gaining an awful lot of momentum in those days. And they're all men. They decided they were going to try to please the women, I guess.
Get their brownie points in there. But you actually, in you mentioning the feminist movement, it triggers something in my memory or just in my thought process here about Title IX. I mean, last week we just hit the 50-year anniversary of Title IX, and this gave equal footing to female sports, right, in schools and so forth.
Yeah.
And now we
Well,
have this massive movement with transgender athletes, specifically transgender females, competing in sports. And it doesn't seem that any of those women activists and feminist activists and so forth are trying to look out for the biological females who are getting knocked off the paths that they might have begun when they were 9 or 10 years old, meaning scholarships are being, not being coming their way because they're competing against, in essence, what is a biological male who's, once they've gone through puberty, even though they might meet those guidelines, doctor, that they've gone the hormones for a certain amount of time in the window after they've transitioned and so forth. But if they've gone through puberty, they have the muscle mass, they have the height, right? When we look at Leah Thompson, she just towers over the other competitors. Her reach is much greater. Her hands are bigger. She's physically dominant and is not winning by fractions of seconds, which is what's vital. That's standard, right? In that sport, in swimming, she's winning by laps. I mean, significant times. And where are the women protectors saying, hey, what about these biological females who can't compete against this?
Well, they're really confused because this is like the alligator trying to bite itself. They finally got equality, and then they also got all the cousins of equality came in as men. it's just very, very confusing to be a female athlete at these. I've got 4 granddaughters that are female athletes, and they don't know what to think about this whole thing. It's they've been taught that they're supposed to be very, very accepting and they're not supposed to be biased against anybody, and if they change their sex and then all of a sudden they turn up as their competitors and they have a great deal of advantage, they don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of it. I just hope that there's somebody smarter than I am comes along and tries to figure out how to equalize this whole thing.
Yeah, well, I mean,
maybe they need a third sex, huh?
Well, they've talked about having a transgender league, right? So transgenders,
Yeah.
Here, but are there enough to create an entire league? That becomes the issue. And I know, there happens to be a lot more than Leah Thompson. She's just the one that people know. She's kind of become the poster child for this, and her situation's well known. But there are a decent number of transgender athletes out there competing. So that does happen. Yeah. I've had this conversation in other shows and so forth, and specifically with an activist from the LGBTQ community and a transgender female herself, and she puts it off as, it's this is school sports are supposed to teach you how to learn and lose, and that's it. And my point of but these girls have mapped out their future. They are, they're in Title IX has given countless professional females a path. It's also educated them because of scholarships and so forth. And she discounts that totally and saying, hey, you lose, you lose, just go back and practice harder and train harder.
Take it.
If you have a biological disadvantage, that's harder. And of course, her response is, well, there's always a biological disadvantage. Not everybody's equal. And that's why, but you can also say that these transgender athletes are in fact on hormone treatments. Now, it's estrogen, I get that, but they are loaded with testosterone from birth. So I agree with you. Somebody's got to come up with an answer that you and I aren't going to do it right now. 2 old white men aren't going to figure this out.
Yeah, right.
Monday afternoon. But,
I'm just staying out of this one.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, we'll pass. We'll let others get into this. Very good. But the thing too, also about the decision of Roe versus Wade with this is, again, the response that happens. It's like the left always goes to threats and violence. We don't really see the right often be, promising like Jane's Revenge, an evening or a night of rage, and the demonstrations. And I mean, fortunately, nothing's gotten too crazy. We're not back into the summer of 2020 here, but still enough to put up fences and graffiti and broken windows and death threats. Why do they think this helps the cause? And this falls far out of peaceful protest and right to exercise your free speech, does it not?
Well, yes. Why they do it? I think why they do it has nothing to do with logic, because it's not. This is a law, and I mean it's not a law. But it is a court a verdict, and there's nothing that they are going to do that's going to change that. Now, are they trying to create such a violent and threatening response to the
1 minute
thwarting of the will of the extremists in this issue? Maybe so, but I don't think there's any logical reason. I think it's strictly emotional, and it's like the riots of 2020. I mean, what did they have to do with racism? Nothing.
Exactly, but there was some. They actually got some results. BLM got millions upon millions of dollars, which 62 million is
30
now
seconds.
And then they went on personal shopping sprees to buy mansions for themselves and so forth. So they have a lot of answer for that. But they pretty much intimidated a lot of major corporations to write some big checks. So one could argue that violence and intimidation actually worked to some degree. But we have to take we have to take our fourth and final break here, Doc. Again, Dr. Larry Fedor, our guest today, 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000 and join the discussion. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about Joe Biden and some tactical nukes on the other side of the break. So stick with us. We'll be back in a moment.
Hi, this is Frankie Boyer. Join me on June 30th. Yes, an in-person event at High Style Laser Center.
Caller Joe from Millis.
Let me know that you're coming because we are going to get together and we're talking about Millie and how brilliant she is. If you are suffering from rosacea, deep wrinkles, skin rejuvenation, you can get skin tightening, vein removal. It goes on and on and on. This woman is a magician. I am telling you, she really is. High Style Laser Center. You can call them at 617-261-7101, 617-261-7101, 200 High Street, 3:30, June 30th, 3:30. I'm Frankie Boyer. Hope to see you. You can text me and let me know you're coming at 508-878-1782, 508-878-1782. See you on June 30th, and I can't wait.
In a world as crazy as ours, isn't it nice to know there's one place you can visit for hours at a time to get a dose of reality, to find out how the other half is doing? Welcome to the radio home of Howie Carr. That's me. Visit anytime between 3 and 7 p.m. weekdays.
Watch it, it's gonna pop!
Progressive presents
30 seconds.
Mindfulness with Flow.
Picture it. Your car and home insurance are perfectly bundled. You're saving loads of money, and life is so much easier. You exist in a heightened state of easy peasiness. Life is as easy as it is peasy as it is easy.
10 seconds.
Experience oneness. Bundle home and auto insurance with Progressive. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
This is Mr. Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, welcome back for the fourth and final segment of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That is 508-871-7000. Dr. Larry Fedawar is our guest today. We're taking a look at some of the SCOTUS decisions that have come down. Historical, actually. We're seeing, after 49 years, the reversal of Roe versus Wade. And I don't even consider it a reversal. I just consider it a correction, in that they put it back to the states as clearly outlined in the Constitution. And Doc, people are trying to draw this comparison between the New York case on the Second Amendment in this, and it's the answer is kind of simple. Second Amendment's in the Constitution. Abortion isn't. I mean, recognition of women is barely in the Constitution. Never mind abortion. So I think that's almost self-explanatory, but it just isn't the answer that they want, and that's that on that. But let's take a call real quick. Joe and Millis. Hey, Joe. Thanks for listening. And what say you?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Joe. Good afternoon, Doctor. Thank you for taking my call. I greatly agree with your doctor, your recitation of what you laid out today. For lack of a better term, I would like you to, if you could comment, please, on, for lack of a better term, the wokeism that has infiltrated our bureaucratic and military establishments in our country. Could you tell me what effect it's had on our military readiness as far as recruitment and retainment in the ranks? And do you see that as on a side note, I see, which is very popular right now, the Top Gun movie, and I see that more now as a Hollywood recruitment.
I can answer. I'm gonna.
Yeah. Do you got what he said?
Go
ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
I would answer and say that the Biden administration's position on all such defense issues is highly, highly questionable and extremely dangerous. It's not only do the troops spend more time worrying about how to deal with different sexes in the ranks instead of readiness for war. They also have vetoed or attempted to veto the most important nuclear advantage that we have on the table. It's called the sea-launched nuclear cruise missile, which
CLCM. Yeah.
Yes, which is now which is the Biden people tried to veto it when out of the defense authorization bill, and for once the Democrats and Republicans in both houses voted to keep it, and that is frankly our only viable defense to in the whole new realm of tactical nuclear war. The Bidens are saying that if you ever get into a nuclear war, it's all over anyway, so let's not spend any money on it. And
again,
that is such a defeatist attitude that we can't afford it.
Exactly. He's stuck back in the 1950s as usual. And as we know, I mean, Joe Biden has been wrong in every major foreign policy or decision like this for his entire career. What I just want to say again, thank you for the call, Joe. One thing on the Top Gun movie. Yeah, the original Top Gun movie was a huge recruiter. Now this new one, Top Gun Maverick, I just wanted to point out, if you remember when it was coming out, on that iconic jacket, flight jacket that he wears, or it's actually a bomber jacket he's wearing, he has Taiwan's flag on it. And for Top Gun Maverick, they edited that out. They removed it because China wasn't thrilled with it. But did you know they put it back on and they said tough, and that's why now Top Gun Maverick will not be seen in China because it sports the Taiwanese flag. And I'm happy with Paramount saying that, right? No, we're gonna leave that on there. Just as a side.
First time.
Yeah. Somebody finally stood up and put principle ahead of the billion people that they got there. But going back to this, again, I think a problem, in addition to Joe just being wrong about this stuff, and again, I'm not being mean-spirited here. This isn't a crack on him, but I don't think he's any longer has that ability to process this and think through this. And we are pretty sure that the policies and what's happening at the White House or within this administration are really being done by others. And you probably have younger groups of people who just are going to be anti-nuclear, period. And they're not thinking this through. And this, folks, that Dr. Larry mentioned, Sea Launch Cruise Missile. This is a vital instrument, not only for assault, but to make sure that we stay equal to or better than our enemies. That's always been, right, since 1948. That has always been more or less the mindset here, right, is to keep peace
The
through
nuclear
strength.
umbrella.
Exactly, nuclear umbrella, so that we know that we have this mutual destruction. And the tactical nuclear weapons is a big part of that today. And you have him being, controlled or things being decided, I don't think always by Joe Biden. Now, he said something a week or so ago, Doc, which was so telling to me. When he was asked a question, his response was, "We haven't made up my mind yet." Think about that. We haven't made up my mind yet. Excuse me, could you imagine Donald Trump or Ronald Reagan saying we haven't made up my mind yet?
God. Talk about self-crucifixion, huh?
But it doesn't that tell you everything you need to know?
Oh, God. Oh, my Lord.
Well, he's constantly saying that, they won't like it. I'm not allowed to say that. And I just have never, whether it's Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Bush, any of the Bushes, and Ronald Reagan, would ever say anything like this. And then he's complaining about how the his press corps has to constantly correct or walk things back. And it's like, well, okay, first of all, you're the commander in chief. You're the president. Either correct it and fire some people, right? Or make sure that you're right. Because I think what they're trying to do is to keep us out of a nuclear war.
Well, yeah, and that's fine. But there's only one way to do that, and that is to scare other people into it. And we have to have the wherewithal to do that. And we since 1948 we have always been, everybody knew that we were superior. Every time the Russians made a new invention of a new class of weapons with Reagan, he came out with something even better.
Yeah.
And that's how he won. He did not win by going and hiding in the cellar. And this is what Biden's doing or attempting to do. His own people, in this case, his defense secretary and the generals all recommended highly that he go forward with the sea-launched nuclear cruise missile, because it can be launched from certain class of ships anywhere, and that gives us the flexibility and the payload. The payload can be adjustable. It doesn't have to be. It can be relatively small, or it can be devastating, and they'll never know what each ship has unless they test it, and they're not about to test it. And so that gives us, and not only that, but there's also the possibility that we can use this same technology in space and in airline for in long range aviation as well.
Yeah.
So this is critical. This is right now we are outnumbered 10 between 10 and 100 to 1 when it comes to nuclear bombs or nuclear weapons, and our equipment is all old, and not only that, but it's deployed for the most part, it's deployed in various allies locations. So we can't just decide to use our own weapons. We have to go and get the Germans or the Turks. Imagine that, trying to get the Turks to agree to let us deploy our weapons against Russia. I mean, the Turks are right next to Russia, and if they do that, that means that they are going to become a target of Russia. So are they gonna help us? Hell no. We have no ability to maintain our
1 minute.
our alliances with all of our allies that are depending on us. The Japanese and the Taiwanese, for example, are raring to go to get their own nuclear weapons, and Egypt and the Middle East is going to break out, and this whole idea of being able to control the dissemination of nuclear weapons is going to go right into the trash can. It's just, and here's Biden standing in the way of our only shot at having some kind of a nuclear disarmament treaty that would scare Iran and North Korea and China and Russia enough to go ahead and enforce it.
Hey, Doc,
so this is the situation.
Yeah, we're at the end. We ran out of time, but that article from Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, it's absolutely worth a read. It'll give you the background there, and it's pretty scary. Doc, thanks for joining us again. Find Dr. Larry and Dr. Larry online. Thank you again for joining us, Doctor. And this will wrap up the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a fantastic week, and I'll be back Wednesday at 1 o'clock, folks. Joe out.
This is Full Service Radio, AM 830.